Hey, I'm Paige DeSorbo, and I'm always thinking about underwear.
I'm Hannah Berner, and I'm also thinking about underwear, but I prefer full coverage. I like to call them my granny panties.
Actually, I never think about underwear. That's the magic of Tommy John.
Same. They're so light and so comfy, and if it's not comfortable, I'm not wearing it.
And the bras, soft, supportive, and actually breathable.
Yes, Lord knows the girls need to breathe. Also, I need my PJs to breathe and be buttery soft and stretchy enough for my dramatic tossing and turning at night. That's why I live in my Tommy John pajamas.
Plus, they're so cute because they fit perfectly.
Put yourself on to Tommy John.
Upgrade your drawer with Tommy John. Save 25% for a limited time at TommyJohn.com/comfort. See site for details.
El rugido de los aficionados, el ritmo de las porras, la intensidad en la cancha. Esto es más que solo un partido de fútbol. Con DraftKings Sportsbook, esta es tu oportunidad de convertir cada jugada en una gran ganancia. Descarga la app de DraftKings Sportsbook y usa el código HEART. Ese es el código HEART para que los nuevos usuarios reciban $200 en bonus bets al instante cuando apuestes solo $5. En asociación con DraftKings, la corona es tuya. ¿Problemas con el juego? Llama al 1-800-GAMBLER. En Nueva York, llama al 877-8-HOPE-NY o envía un mensaje de texto con la palabra HOPE-NY al 467-369. En Connecticut, hay ayuda disponible para problemas con el juego. Llama al 888-789-7777 o visita ccpg.org. Juega responsablemente. En nombre de Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. Debe ser mayor de 21 años. La elegibilidad varía según la jurisdicción. No válido en Ontario. Pueden aplicarse cargos en Illinois. Las apuestas de bonos son de un solo uso. La apuesta no se incluye en las ganancias y caducan después de ser otorgadas. La oferta finaliza el 29 de septiembre 2025 a las 11:59 p.m. hora del este. Los términos en DraftKings.com/sportsbook/promos.
Hi, this is Kim and Penn Holderness from the Laugh Lines podcast. Boost Mobile offers the same nationwide coverage, network speed, and service consumers are used to, but at more affordable prices. Why pay more if you don't have to?
Boost Mobile offering reliable nationwide coverage backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. Love your service or get your money back, no questions asked.
While other carriers blow millions on Super Bowl ads, we put that money to work for you, delivering reliable 99% nationwide coverage at affordable prices.
Start saving on wireless today with Boost Mobile's unlimited plans starting at just $25 a month.
The Boost Mobile network, together with their roaming partners, cover 99% of the U.S. population. 5G speeds not available in all areas.
Visit your nearest Boost Mobile store or find us online at boostmobile.com.
Customers who cancel within 30 days of activation will have Boost service fees refunded. Activation fees, if applicable, and phone payments will not be refunded.
Hey, I'm Paige DeSorbo, and I'm always thinking about underwear.
I'm Hannah Berner, and I'm also thinking about underwear, but I prefer full coverage. I like to call them my granny panties.
Actually, I never think about underwear. That's the magic of Tommy John.
Same. They're so light and so comfy, and if it's not comfortable, I'm not wearing it.
And the bras, soft, supportive, and actually breathable.
Yes, Lord knows the girls need to breathe. Also, I need my PJs to breathe and be buttery soft and stretchy enough for my dramatic tossing and turning at night. That's why I live in my Tommy John pajamas.
Plus, they're so cute because they fit perfectly.
Put yourself on to Tommy John.
Upgrade your drawer with Tommy John. Save 25% for a limited time at TommyJohn.com/comfort. See site for details.
It's past midnight on a chill autumn night, and millions of radios are tuned to the AM dial. A familiar voice, deep and measured, crackles through the static. Art Bell, legendary host of Coast to Coast AM, addresses his insomniac audience. "I must warn you," he intones. "What you're about to hear is very disturbing." In the pregnant pause that follows, an otherworldly cacophony suddenly erupts from the speakers. It's a shrill, hellish din, a chorus of anguished screams echoing as if from the deepest abyss. Listeners grip their steering wheels or clutch their blankets as the horrifying soundscape continues. Wailing voices, countless in number, crying out in terror and pain. The noise builds, a whirlwind of human agony that seems to spiral up from unimaginable depths. Then just as quickly as it began, the nightmarish recording falls silent. I'm Sarah Powell, and this is Obscurata, because some stories have no ending. For a moment, there is only static and stunned disbelief. Art Bell clears his throat, clearly shaken. That was it, he says softly, almost whispering. He doesn't need to elaborate. His audience knows what they heard. It's the infamous Sounds from Hell recording. According to the story Bell has been discussing on the show, these are the actual sounds of screaming souls captured miles beneath the Earth's crust. On this night, the late 1990s or early 2000s, Bell's broadcast has brought a modern legend to life. The host had received an email from a listener claiming to possess a genuine recording from a deep Siberian drilling project gone horribly wrong. After a brief on-air disclaimer, he dared to play it. Now having unleashed those hellish screams onto the airwaves, Bell and his listeners sit in uneasy silence, wondering aloud, was that real? Was this disturbing audio proof of hell? Or an elaborate hoax? To answer that question, we must step back from the crackle of the radio and travel to the source of this dark saga. The origin of the Sounds from Hell leads us to a remote corner of Siberia and a drill site that some say pierced the veil between the world of the living and the realm of the damned. The legend begins in the late 1980s in the frigid expanse of Soviet Siberia. A team of geologists and drill engineers, led by a man referred to in accounts only as Mr. Azakov, embarked on a bold drilling expedition far from civilization. They were scientists, driven by curiosity and the promise of discovery, intent on boring deeper into the Earth's crust than ever before. According to the tale, they succeeded, drilling over 14 kilometres, 9 miles down into the earth. The drill chewed through ancient rock and permafrost, inching towards the Earth's mantle. Then, unexpectedly, it broke through into empty space. The bit began to spin freely, indicating that the Soviet team had hit a hollow pocket deep underground. Puzzled by this anomaly, the scientists stopped the drill and began to take readings. What their instruments recorded defied imagination. The temperature at the bottom of the borehole soared to over 1,000 Celsius, far above what any model had predicted at that depth. The cavern below wasn't just warm, it seemed to blaze like a furnace. An inferno of fire, the chief scientist, Azakov, supposedly described it. The heat wasn't the only thing rising from that abyss. The team heard strange noises emanating from deep within the earth. Faint at first, then unmistakable, it sounded like the clamour of voices. Desperate to understand what they had uncovered, the Soviet engineers decided to lower a heat-resistant microphone down the shaft, along with other sensory equipment. By this point, one can imagine their apprehension. These were men of science, yet something uncanny was happening. The story goes that the microphone was equipped to withstand extreme conditions, but even so, the 1000 Celsius plus heat was too much. The device functioned for only a short time, some say just 17 seconds, others up to 30 seconds, before it melted from the sheer intensity of the heat. In those few seconds, however, the microphone transmitted something that turned the scientist's blood to ice. It was not the sound of shifting rocks or magma, nor the rush of underground gas. It was the sound of human screams. For a moment, the monitoring station at the surface felt utterly silent as the researchers listened in disbelief. Hundreds, perhaps thousands of voices cried out in torment, a dreadful wailing that no one present could explain away as wind or geological noise. The recorded screams were unmistakably human, filled with pain and despair. The legend holds that upon hearing this, the drilling crew was overcome with terror. One account claims many of the scientists ran from the site, abandoning the project on the spot rather than risk uncovering anything more. These were Soviet engineers, many of them atheists by training, suddenly confronted with what sounded like proof of a literal hell beneath their feet. "We have drilled into the gates of hell," a shaken Azakov reportedly told colleagues, and no one could argue with him in that moment. What happened next pushes the story fully into the paranormal. As the tale continues, the Soviet team's nightmarish discovery did not end with the screams. Later that night, a violent eruption burst forth from the open borehole. A plume of searing fire and smoke shot into the cold Siberian sky. Startled workers and camp staff looked on as the column of smoke took on a demonic form. Some swore it resembled a winged bat-like creature unfolding in the flames. In the smoky darkness, a series of fiery words etched themselves across the sky in Russian. The message, the onlookers said, was, "I have conquered," as if proclaimed by some infernal entity unleashed from the depths. Pandemonium erupted, according to the legend. Frantic Soviet officials on site didn't hesitate to act. If this was hell, they wanted it shut immediately. It said that the order was given to fill the hole and abandon the project at once. The remaining scientists were ushered away, many in shock, as emergency crews moved in. In some versions of the story, medical staff allegedly administered sedatives to the traumatized workers to erase their short-term memory of the incident. The Soviet authorities, so the story goes, wanted to ensure no clear witness account would survive. The borehole was sealed and any reports were classified. Yet despite the officials' efforts, the horrors at the Siberian drill site could not be kept secret. A few personnel, perhaps a doctor, perhaps a scientist who escaped early, reportedly leaked word of what had happened. The whispers spread through science circles, religious communities, and eventually into global tabloid media. The gruesome tale of the well to hell was about to make its way above ground. By the early 1990s, the Siberian hellhole story had found its way from the remote drill site to the wider world. Despite the alleged cover-up, rumours about the doomed experiment spread rapidly, first person to person and then in the media. The earliest known public report of the incident in the West came in 1989, courtesy of an unlikely source, the Trinity Broadcasting Network, TBN. TBN, a Christian television network based in California, aired a sensational news segment declaring that scientists discover hell in Siberia. In late 1989, TBN's newsletter and broadcast ran the headline, "Scientists Discover Hell," recounting the story of the subterranean screams as literal truth. For a certain segment of the religious community, it was explosive news, physical evidence of hell, and by extension, proof of the Bible's fiery underworld. TBN's report claimed the story came from a reputable Finnish scientific journal, but in reality, it was traced to a Finnish Pentecostal publication. The Finnish newspaper in question, misnamed as Amanuensis by some sources, actually Amanuensia, had indeed printed an article about the Siberian hellhole earlier that year. But that Finnish article itself was based on a chain of hearsay. It apparently reprinted a letter from a reader who claimed to summarize a story from a Norwegian newspaper, which in turn got it from a California-based newsletter of Christian evangelists. The trail was convoluted and difficult to verify, but TBN's charismatic hosts treated the story as fact, urging viewers to take it as a warning of hell's reality. Watching one of these TBN broadcasts was a visiting Norwegian schoolteacher named Arg Randalen. Randalen was both bemused and disturbed by the credulity on display. He knew the story sounded far-fetched. To him, TBN's report was feeding fear and superstition. Deciding to teach a lesson in skepticism, Randalen hatched a devious plan. He wrote an earnest letter to TBN, initially professing doubt about the tale, but then claiming that, upon returning to Norway, he had discovered independent confirmation of the Siberian hellhole story. In his letter, Randalen provided tantalizing new evidence. He described a supposed article from a Norwegian newspaper that not only corroborated the Siberian scientist's account, but added an even more dramatic twist. According to Randalen's letter, the Norwegian press had reported that a fearsome bat-like apparition had indeed burst from the drill hole, blazing a trail across the sky before disappearing. Essentially, the exact same demon that TBN had aired. To lend authenticity, Randalen even included a Norwegian language article clipping with his letter, offering to translate it for TBN. The trick was, as Randalen later admitted, the Norwegian article he sent was completely mundane, something about a local building inspector, which he deliberately mistranslated into the demonic story as a prank. If TBN had done any due diligence, the hoax would have been exposed at once. Randalen had even given his real name, address and phone number in the letter, as well as contacts for a pastor friend in Norway who knew of the ruse and could confirm it was fake if asked. But incredibly, TBN never bothered to verify the claims. The network enthusiastically reported Randalen's fabricated update on the air, presenting it as further proof that the Soviets had opened a gateway to hell. Viewers now heard not only disembodied wails, but also a demonic entity escaping the pit. The prank had worked too well. Instead of revealing TBN's gullibility, it amplified the myth. As Randalen later lamented, his fake accounts simply became part of the legend's growing lore. By the early 1990s, the well-to-hell yarn was circling the globe, especially within Christian circles. Preachers and evangelists repeated the tale in sermons, sometimes embellishing it further. One prominent Texas evangelist, Reverend R.W. Schwambach, even claimed he had received actual evidence of the Soviet discovery. Copies of the story appeared in church newsletters and pamphlets, often cited as a sobering reminder of damnation. At the same time, the secular press began to take notice, mostly to debunk it. In February 1990, the story was printed in the TBN-affiliated newspaper, Praise the Lord, and by spring, it had hit other Christian publications. Skeptics and researchers stepped in to investigate the wild claims. In the July 1990 issue of Christianity Today, an article by Rich Buhler, a Christian radio journalist, debunked the well-to-hell story point by point. He traced its path from the Finnish paperback to murky origins, and noted the lack of any verifiable source or eyewitness willing to come forward. That November, Biblical Archaeology Review also ran an expose dismissing the tale as a hoax. The academic and religious consensus was that this was nothing more than an urban legend that had gotten wildly out of hand. Despite these efforts, the hellhole legend refused to die. By 1991, it had firmly planted itself in popular culture's shadowy corners, the realm of supermarket tabloids and paranormal gossip. In April 1992, the notorious Weekly World News tabloid gave the story a new twist. With its trademark outrageous flair, Weekly World News moved the setting from Siberia to a remote oil site in Alaska, claiming that unsuspecting American drillers had punched into hell from the other side of the globe. The article alleged that 13 oil rig workers were killed when the devil himself burst out of the Alaskan well in an explosion of fire. It even purported to have quotes from shocked officials and made references to a cover-up by US authorities. The whole piece was tongue-in-cheek and absurd. Weekly World News was, after all, the same tabloid famous for stories like Batboy and alien abductions. Yet it demonstrated how the legend kept evolving. Now hell had multiple entrance points: Siberia, Alaska, wherever the story might spook the most people. All of this was before the age of viral internet memes. By the mid-1990s, the urban legend of the well to hell had started creeping into early internet forums and email chains. People passed around the basic story in messages titled Siberian Hell Dig or Scientists Heard Hell as a curiosity or scare tactic. In some cases, these messages referenced an audio clip, the very recording that Art Bell would later air, though in the early 90s, not many had actually heard it yet. A few WAV files and low-quality clips began to surface on paranormal BBS boards and websites, purporting to be the actual sounds of hell from the Siberian dig. The legend's new digital life had begun, but it was waiting for a spark to really set it ablaze. That spark would come from a little show called Coast to Coast AM. By the late 1990s, Coast to Coast AM had become the nation's premier overnight home for all things bizarre and unexplained. Host Art Bell was known for his open-minded but cautiously skeptical approach to tales of the paranormal. He'd heard plenty of urban legends, and the Siberian well to hell story was one that inevitably crossed his path. For years, it had percolated on the fringe, a creepy anecdote shared in niche publications and online forums. But in 2002, the story was about to be reborn on the airwaves. According to Bell, a listener, identifying himself only by first name, contacted the show claiming to possess an actual audio recording from the fabled Siberian borehole. The man said he had heard Bell mention the Sounds from Hell tale on a previous show and felt compelled to come forward with what he described as real evidence. Art Bell soon received an email from this source, and attached was an MP3 file labelled along the lines of Hell Sounds MP3. In the email, the listener shared the backstory of how he obtained the recording. "Dear Art Bell," the message began. "I just recently began listening to your radio show and could not believe it when you talked about the sounds from hell." The writer explained that his uncle, now deceased, had told him the same story years ago. The story of the Siberian drilling project that accidentally opened the gates of hell. At the time, the nephew hadn't believed his uncle's wild tale, but the uncle was a collector of paranormal tapes and videos, and as proof, he had played an audio cassette of the hell sounds for his nephew. The uncle claimed he'd obtained his copy from a friend at the BBC, who in turn got it from the original source in Russia. Skeptical or not, the nephew had made himself a copy of that tape, and after his uncle passed away, he held on to it. Now, hearing Art Bell discuss the very same legend on the air, he was offering the tape for use. "Attached is that sound from my uncle's tapes," the email concluded simply. Art Bell found himself in possession of what could be a historic audio document or a fake. Ever the showman, Bell knew that, real or not, this was something his audience would find riveting. He also understood it could be deeply disturbing. So on that night's broadcast, he prepared his listeners. Bell recounted the essence of the email on air, reading parts of the listener's letter virtually verbatim. He let everyone know what they were about to hear, emphasising that he could not verify its authenticity, but that it purported to be the genuine article. "Some say this might just be an elaborate hoax," he admitted, hinting at the scepticism. Still, curiosity won out. After a pause and a deep breath, Art Bell pressed play, and the screams of the damned filled the airwaves. The effect was electrifying. As described earlier, the shrieking, chaotic sound went on for less than a minute, but it was unforgettable. Bell and many listening had a visceral reaction. Some callers later said they had to turn the lights on or even say a prayer after hearing it. So unsettling was the experience. Almost immediately, the coast-to-coast AM phone lines lit up, with people wanting to discuss what they'd just heard. Reactions ranged from horrified to skeptical. Some long-time listeners recalled hearing urban legends, but the audio made it real in a way a story on paper never could. On the internet, the clip took on a life of its own. As one account put it, after Bell aired the recording, the story spread like wildfire across the internet once again. Websites dedicated to the paranormal hosted the sound file. Discussion boards dissected it frame by frame. Even those who hadn't heard the late-night broadcast soon got their own copy of the Sounds of Hell to forward to friends. A legend that had been dormant was resurrected. But along with renewed fame came renewed scrutiny. Skeptics and audio experts lost no time in analysing the clip Bell played. Many noted something curious about the sound. It didn't really resemble raw field audio from a downhole microphone. Instead, it sounded like a composite, a loop of audio snippets pieced together. In fact, some internet sleuths claimed they recognized elements of the screaming from somewhere else entirely, a 1970s horror film. By comparing snippets, they alleged that the hellish cacophony matched scenes from Barren Blood, a 1972 Italian horror movie directed by Mario Bava. Before long, sound engineers had come forward to support this theory, explaining that the recording was likely created by layering looping audio tracks of wailing sounds. Indeed, the exact same shrieks can be heard in the movie's soundtrack, according to these analyses. If true, this meant the famed Siberian Hell recording was nothing more than a lifted segment of a horror film, cleverly repackaged. There were other red flags that investigators pointed out. No recording equipment on Earth could survive the temperatures claimed in the story's deepest depths, certainly not in 1989. The Kola super deep borehole, the real-life deepest hole ever drilled, did reach about 12 kilometres down, but the temperatures at the bottom were measured around 180 Celsius, not 1,000 degrees. And of course, no screams or demons emerged from that genuine scientific project, which ended quietly in 1989 without any supernatural encounters. In short, said the skeptics, the Siberian Hellwell made for a fantastic yarn, but fell apart under even modest scrutiny. Over the years, multiple investigations by religious journalists, secular researchers, and even the Skeptoid Science podcast have thoroughly debunked virtually every aspect of the story. As Brian Gunning of Skeptoid noted, the infamous audio is almost certainly a hoax, composed of looping sound effects and movie audio. In 1998, even Snopes, the urban legend fact-checker, rated the well to hell as false, and commented wryly that all the allegedly damning audio clips sound like they could be the noise from a typical bar on a busy Friday evening.
Hi, I'm Casey, host of the Casefile podcast. Today, I want to talk to you about Boost Mobile, offering reliable nationwide coverage backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. Love your service or get your money back, no questions asked. With Boost Mobile, you get nationwide coverage and fast network speeds at a fraction of the price. Why pay more for the same great service? Unlimited plans start at just $25 a month, and you won't be sacrificing coverage to save. So why wait? Start saving with Boost today. The Boost mobile network, together with their roaming partners, covers 99% of the US population. 5G speeds not available in all areas. Visit your nearest Boost Mobile store or find us online at boostmobile.com. Money back guarantee. Try Boost Mobile risk-free for 30 days. If you don't like us, you get your money back. Requires port-in and auto-pay. Customers who cancel within 30 days of activation will have Boost service fees refunded. Activation fees, if applicable, and phone payments will not be refunded.
Hey, I'm Paige DeSorbo, and I'm always thinking about underwear.
I'm Hannah Burner, and I'm also thinking about underwear, but I prefer full coverage. I like to call them my granny panties.
Actually, I never think about underwear. That's the magic of Tommy John.
Same. They're so light and so comfy, and if it's not comfortable, I'm not wearing it.
And the bras, soft, supportive, and actually breathable.
Yes, Lord knows the girls need to breathe. Also, I need my PJs to breathe and be buttery soft and stretchy enough for my dramatic tossing and turning at night. That's why I live in my Tommy John pajamas.
Plus, they're so cute because they fit perfectly.
Put yourself on to Tommy John.
Upgrade your drawer with Tommy John. Save 25% for a limited time at TommyJohn.com/comfort. See site for details.
And that's the end of this episode. What fun that was. If you'd like to support this podcast, you can do so by visiting patreon.com/The Whispering Woods, where for £2.50 a month you can listen completely ad-free. You can also subscribe to Apple Premium, where for $4.99 a month you can listen to this podcast and our other podcast, The Whispering Woods, ad-free. Episodes on Patreon and Apple Premium are also released early. I want to say a quick thank you to Rog for fact-checking and editing, and as always, stay curious and sleep with the lights on, just in case.
Hey, I'm Paige DeSorbo, and I'm always thinking about underwear.
I'm Hannah Burner, and I'm also thinking about underwear, but I prefer full coverage. I like to call them my granny panties.
Actually, I never think about underwear. That's the magic of Tommy John.
Same. They're so light and so comfy, and if it's not comfortable, I'm not wearing it.
And the bras, soft, supportive, and actually breathable.
Yes, Lord knows the girls need to breathe. Also, I need my PJs to breathe and be buttery soft and stretchy enough for my dramatic tossing and turning at night. That's why I live in my Tommy John pajamas.
Plus, they're so cute because they fit perfectly.
Put yourself on to Tommy John.
Upgrade your drawer with Tommy John. Save 25% for a limited time at TommyJohn.com/comfort. See site for details.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. They're the home of the #1 checkout on the planet and the not-so-secret Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales happening. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds and Skims use. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/start selling. All lowercase. Go to shopify.com/start selling to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/start selling.
El rugido de los aficionados, el ritmo de las porras, la intensidad en la cancha. Esto es más que solo un partido de fútbol. Con DraftKings Sportsbook, esta es tu oportunidad de convertir cada jugada en una gran ganancia. Descarga la app de DraftKings Sportsbook y usa el código HEART. Ese es el código HEART para que los nuevos usuarios reciban $200 en bonus bets al instante cuando apuestes solo $5. En asociación con DraftKings, la corona es tuya. ¿Problemas con el juego? Llama al 1-800-GAMBLER. En Nueva York, llama al 877-8-HOPE-NY o envía un mensaje de texto con la palabra HOPE-NY al 467-369. En Connecticut, hay ayuda disponible para problemas con el juego. Llama al 888-789-7777 o visita ccpg.org. Juega responsablemente. En nombre de Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. Debe ser mayor de 21 años. La elegibilidad varía según la jurisdicción. No válido en Ontario. Pueden aplicarse cargos en Illinois. Las apuestas de bonos son de un solo uso. La apuesta no se incluye en las ganancias y caducan después de ser otorgadas. La oferta finaliza el 29 de septiembre 2025 a las 11:59 p.m. hora del este. Los términos en DraftKings.com/sportsbook/promos.